What's up, everybody? Victor Pena here with OmniPrint International, and today we're going to do a showdown with DTG versus screen printing. All right, and we're going to get started right now. What's up, everybody? Victor Pena here with OmniPrint International, and today we're doing a screen printing versus DTG showdown. What should you get into first? Pros and cons, the good, the bad, the ugly, the everything. All right, we're gonna get into it right now. Also, remember, only about half of you guys that are watching the videos are subscribed to the channel, and it would do us a great service if you guys let us know if you like this video by subscribing, liking, commenting, and remember, hit the bell so that you could be notified every time we release a video. For the last 16 years, we have been building and distributing direct-to-garment printers in the industry, and we have product of the year for the last 6 years. And we want to show you guys how to grow and scale, when you want to use digital, when you don't want to use digital, and that is why we're here today. So we want to empower you guys to grow with print on demand and e-commerce. We're going to start with what is DTG, or direct-to-garment printing. In direct-to-garment printing, you're printing full color images directly onto the fabric. You can do photographic prints. You know, you guys also heard about print on demand. Print on demand means that you are actually receiving your order first, then you print, and then you ship, right? And those are some of the capabilities that you can do with direct-to-garment printing. You are also now restricted to having designs that are low color. So you can have like a full color design, you can have photographic prints, you can have like just really full color designs that pop. If you say, hey, you know what kind of garments can I print with direct-to-garment? You can use cotton poly blends, you can use 100% polyester, especially if you're using our Gamut Plus inks. So you have a wide range of versatility. One thing I want you to keep in mind when choosing garments is the dye process. There are some garments that stain most with direct-to-garment pre-treatment, so you want to be careful with that. Other than that, you can use most garments for pre-treatment. There's also lists online that you can check which garments are best for direct-to-garment printing. Another thing you want to keep in mind is with direct-to-garment, it's actually fairly easy to get started and fairly easy to maintain, right? So that's important for you. In direct-to-garment, you can actually have a home-based business, and you can use a spare room, or you can use a garage or a small shop. Why? Because there's no toxic fumes coming out of the ink. So the ink's eco-friendly, child-safe, and can be used in smaller contained environments. And that's a huge benefit of direct-to-garment if you're starting a business and you want to start from home. You also have a highly durable ink and highly durable prints. Why? Because you're actually curing them after you print, right? So that's a good benefit of direct-to-garment. You also have fast production times for your production needs, right? But fast is if you're doing print on demand and you receive an order, you can actually print and ship it same day with low prep time. And what's prep time, right? So you don't have to set up the artwork, you don't have to do separations, you don't have to do screens, you don't have to do a lot of these different things to prep for a job. Why? Because you literally load up the image on your computer, you press print and send it directly to your printer. Now, I told you that you would have a nice and small footprint to be able to run this business. So normally you can run it from a 10 by 10 room, your garage, or anywhere in your house where you can have a contained area for your equipment. When do you want to use direct-to-garment? That's a great question a lot of people ask. You want to use it when you have high color density type designs, full colors, photographic designs, when you have low quantity or mid quantity, or you're using an e-commerce business like Etsy, Shopify, those kind of things that allow you to sell first, then print and ship. That's when you want to use direct-to-garment. And now we're going to go into what is screen printing and when you want to use that process. Screen printing has been around for many, many years, guys, and it's a traditional process that works really well depending on what your order volume and what your customer needs are, right? So what it is you're actually burning an image on a screen, washing that out, and then that image is then exposed and you push ink through it manually with a heavy squeegee, right? So what does that do? That allows you to essentially create any type of artwork, and you're literally screen printing it or you're rubbing it through the screens and it ends up in your garment, right? So that's essentially in a nutshell what screen print is. And it really allows you to print any type of garment depending on which inks you use. My favorite types of images for screen printing are ones that are gonna be like a vector base, which means it has an outline. You have low colors, right? Like 1 or 2 colors. You can also do a 4-color process if you're more of an advanced screen printer. And literally you wanna look at what kind of images that are best to put on screen print, and depending on the type of shop that you're doing, right? So those are the kind of images that I like. Also, you're using 3 different types of inks mostly, right? You're using a plastisol ink, which is literally melted plastic that goes through an oven. You use a water-based ink, and you also use a discharge ink, right? So this makes your prints very highly durable. I really like screen printing. The durability is super great when it comes to that. One thing to remember, screen printing takes a lot of space. All right, so that means that you need a big room, big dedicated room. You also need a room that is light safe so that you can expose and prepare your screens. Additionally, you're going to need a room to spray down or wash out your screens to expose that image, right? You want to have this big space, you want to have a lot of ventilation, right? Because of the different types of inks and chemicals that you have to use. Most of them are not eco-friendly, right? So you want to dispose of it properly. That will help you kind of mitigate that part. There's a lot of work being done with actually making some of this stuff more eco-friendly. Check out for that if you're more concerned about that, especially when it comes to the plastisol and those kind of discharge types of inks, all right? What order volumes are good for screen printing? So you want to look at, depending on how big your business is and how automated or not your setup process is, that's how costly or that's how long your setup's gonna be. What kind of order volumes are best for screen printing? So I typically like to say you wanna do a high volume count with a low color count is the best way to use screen printing. So for example, you wanna do thousands of shirts that are an easy color, a 1-color logo, maybe a sports number or something like that. That's super good to do on screen printing. Why? Because you're gonna burn 1 or 2 screens, and then that setup is reduced. Now you can get to printing in a shorter amount of time, and then you could do a higher quantity of prints, right? So I wanna talk about setup because it's related kind of to what the quantity of shirts that I should be doing. If your shop is not as sophisticated or automated, or your expertise is not there yet, it's gonna take you longer to set up, to burn screens, to align them, especially if it's a 4-color process, right? So that means that you wanna dedicate more time for setup, and it's costly for you to do, so you wanna do orders that are big in quantity to offset what you're spending in that setup. Your setup is gonna vary on how costly it is, right? Because your chemicals, your washout, all right, all the stuff that you need, your emulsions, your film, all of that stuff that you need, you have to calculate it ahead of time and try to build that as a setup fee to your customers if you can. Also, what other screen printers do sometimes, they build that in to the cost per print. If you're doing more quantity, then it's easier for you to build that in the cost per print and still give a reasonable cost to your customer. And that leads me to the minimums, right? So if you guys call around, a lot of screen print shops have minimums. That means that they're not gonna bother if you don't have a minimum of 100 pieces, 200 pieces, 500 pieces, whatever. Why? Because of all of the stuff, all the setup time that I told you and setup costs, right? So you don't want to spend half a day setting something up to actually just do a few pieces, right? So that's why there's a lot of minimums that come into play, right? So in your shop, you're gonna have to decide if it's gonna be 100, 250 that your minimums are going to be based on how long it's taking you to set up and how much effort, expense it is in all your supplies, right? Remember, you gotta really think about what your energy costs are, because you got ovens, you got lights, you have a lot of different things that are operating during your setup. So keep that in mind when you're pricing your work. So in summary, guys, you want to use screen printing when you're printing high quantity of prints with low colors. That's my sweet spot, okay? That's where you want to be at when it comes to screen printing. Why isn't screen printing for you? If you don't meet the big space requirements, if you don't have the space, or maybe you don't have the help, right? Screen printing is labor intensive to set up, is labor intensive to do, right? So if you don't have help, or if you're not willing to hustle through pushing the ink through the screens, then screen printing is not for you. Also, there's a steep learning curve when it comes to how to properly burn screens, how to wash them out, how to set them up, how to actually apply the ink, which ink, how to mix the ink. It's a steep learning curve, guys. So make sure that you're actually loving it. That is leading me to the next point. You gotta love it, because if you don't, you're gonna burn out just learning about it, all right? You have to pass that curve. If you have the space, if you have the help, if you have the equipment, then you gotta pass the learning curve and the loving it curve, right? So that's when you don't wanna get into screen printing if you can't hit these four main things. Next, guys, I want to talk about why DTG isn't for you. DTG has been around for a few years now, and it has really caught fire in the last 5 years. Why? Because you could do print on demand and you can fulfill orders for others, or you could start your own clothing lines from home. But when is this not for you? All right. Number one, direct to garment requires a learning curve when you're applying pre-treatment to your garments, all right? And you have to know which garments work better, which garments don't work as much, and you have to do that curve of learning to actually get good. And then more importantly, you don't want to leave machines sitting for long periods of time. So direct to garment is not for you if you have zero orders, or you don't have a plan to make the machine work or have orders coming in. So I always say you want to be doing 3 to 5 prints a day on your machine to make sure that it pays for itself. Direct to garment is not for you if you can't fulfill these main things. So I showed you guys what was going to be the showdown versus direct to garment and screen printing, and which ones you should go for first. All right, and what to avoid, what not to avoid. Now, in this section, I want to talk to you guys about when to use them together, right? So remember, every different decoration technique that you use is like a tool in your toolbox. It means that you want to pick the right decoration method for that customer or job. And that takes some learning to know where you apply it, right? So when you're thinking about when I'm going to use screen printing, in the earlier sections, I told you guys, think about it as I'm going to do it when I have a higher quantity customer. I'm going to do it when I have the space, and I'm going to do it when I have those kind of jobs, right? You can also start by outsourcing your screen printing to somebody local and get you started on those bigger jobs if you want to start smaller with direct to garment. You want to also do your full color runs, your full color jobs you want to do on digital, right? So direct to garment or direct to film exactly on your same direct to garment printer will allow you to do those full color runs. It'll allow you to do print on demand, right? And it'll allow you to print for others, right? And you're going to decide, depending on the speed and your expertise, on when you want to cut that volume tier off, right? So for example, a lot of customers will say, all right, at 200 full color prints, I'm gonna do digital, and over 200, I'm gonna do screen printing, right? But that's gonna be up to you. You do the numbers on how much setup is and what you're charging to your customers and how fast your equipment is and how fast you are at producing, then you'll make that call, all right? The summary, guys, is that you want to use direct-to-garment and screen printing and have these two things in your toolbox. That's the reality. There's not one decoration method that could be used for every single print. So always have the right tools in your toolbox for your business. If you want more information or need to talk to a specialist, make sure you hit the link below and we'll be happy to help you on your printing journey. There you have it, DTG versus screen printing. All right, if you want to learn more, make sure you join me in the Fashionpreneur Talk in July, where I'm going to be going more into depth on this topic and also how do you expand and grow your business with DTG.